Well, hey guys, welcome to today's video. Today I'm out in the edge of our field up here at the top of our nursery, and I'm sitting in front of my hedge of green giant arborvitas. And these are just green giants that we just shear every year just for cuttings. But I want to go back about 3 years ago. In fact, it's been almost 3 years ago to the date. Here we are in early fall, and show you when I originally bought these green giants on clearance at a box store for about $140. And now 3 years later, and counting into the future, what we've been able to turn a $140 investment into some plants into. I think you're going to be shocked by the numbers. I know that I am. So let's have a look. So I got the 14 green giants. I made a little video about it, and I was asking you guys in the video, and the second that I bought these, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do with them, but I had a good idea, and I asked y'all what you thought I should do with them. And I followed your advice, kind of, even though really I was probably going to do what I was going to do. But I just planted all of them. I didn't have the immediate need to sell any of them, so I planted all 14 of them kind of in a tight space here. And the plan was to just let them grow and grow and grow and kind of let them turn into a very long-term project. And in doing so, would have more and more cuttings as sources to make baby plants from as time went on. Now, chances are you don't remember 3 years ago when I originally posted the video about me getting these green giants. I picked them up on sale, kind of a fall sale at a Tractor Supply store in my area, and I bought these. These are 14 green giants right here. I bought them for about $140. For the sake of the video, we're going to say $140. They were 50% price. 50% off on clearance, end of the year sale. So real common thing to find at a box store is plants on sale at the end of the year. And I encourage you guys, if you're interested in getting into plants, whether it's a nursery or just as a hobbyist or just for landscaping purposes, always check out your end of the summer into the fall sales at some of your nurseries or box stores, because it's real common to find plants there at a great price that are still in really good shape. Or maybe they're a little wilty, a little brown, whatever, that you can easily revive just by planting them and giving them some attention. So anyway, that's where we got the trees here, the green giant trees that we began working with. We put them in the ground to start growing out to make cuttings from. So then we took the trees, got them planted in, I think, September of 2022. Let them settle in during the fall through the winter, and by the next spring they started flushing out. They didn't flush out quite as quickly and as thickly as maybe as lush as I would have liked for them to that very first year, but we were able to get about 500 or so cuttings off of them by June in early summer of 2023 that we put under mist. And I showed you guys that in a video back then, 2+ years ago now. So we got those going, got those rooted, and while those were rooting though, the green giants continue to grow through that summer into the next fall, and of course, by winter had gone dormant in the winter of 2023. Just to make sure that you don't get lost in the numbers, because I may or may not even be telling them to you in a way that's clear, we've got one full growing season now at that point on the green giants, and we got about 500 cuttings in. Then in winter, we got about 700. So going into the spring of 2024, we've got about 1,200 cuttings that we're going to be potting at that time. That would be all going into trade gallon pots that we would grow out the entire summer of 2024 and start selling those in the fall of 2024. And during that winter, we got about 500, maybe 700 more cuttings that we went ahead and stuck during the winter of 23 into early 24, so that by the time the weather warms up in the spring of 24, those would start rooting and start growing immediately, so that they could really propagate and establish their roots all through that growing season of 2024. So then by the end of the growing season, and when I say growing season, I mean by the time it gets cool and things stop growing, by the time we got to the end of the growing season in 2024, which is 1 year ago from right now, we're finally able to start selling some of these cuttings. And we sold about 600 of those 1,200 cuttings that first fall. That was about how many looked nice and thick and were tall and were ready to sell. And we just overwintered the rest of them and started putting those up for sale the following spring. So if you just add on a few more months to this, you see how this is kind of going. We sold the rest of those 600. We're selling them for about $6 a piece on average, because we do bulk deals. Some of them we sell for more, some of them we sell for less, but it averages out to about $6 to $7 a piece that we sell them for. And then some of them that don't get sold or that don't look quite right, we'll bump those up into the next size pot. So the numbers are never absolute, and here's exactly how many we sold, and here's exactly how many went for this much or that much, because you know, even as I speak right now, some of that very first batch of cuttings of 1,200, we still have some of those that are in 3-gallon pots that are, you know, this tall today that are ready to be sold now at a 3-gallon price, you know, $15, $18, something like that. So the numbers are never absolute, and I'm always estimating these way lower than they actually are, but I just want to give you a good idea of how this works. So then let's go into the final year, which brings us up to the present day, 2025. Now, of course, as they grow, the Green Giants are giving us more cuttings each year than they gave us the year before. So that winter, 2024 and 25, we had more cuttings, about 1,500 cuttings to take. But this year, they have exploded in growth, and I think this coming winter, in fall now into the next few months, we're going to probably be getting 3,000 plus cuttings off of these. So, you know, you've always got that out there. This fall, ending right now, we have sold about 600 to 700 more of these Green Giants, mostly in trade 2 size pots for $10 each. So, you know, when you start doing the math on this, the numbers start getting kind of crazy with what just started with a $140 purchase of these plants. Now, yes, we have to keep these watered and we have to fertilize them, and we have to baby them and take care of them. But the expense involved in doing that is so minuscule, it's not even hardly worth mentioning. I mean, you're talking less than $20 a year spent maintaining these. And my time, well, I don't know how you figure time into it, because this is my job and it's what I do. So Green Giants is just one example of plants that you can do this with, and we do it with other plants as well. I just wanted to show you the math on the Green Giants just as a general idea to get you thinking about how multiplication, not of just plants, but of your money with plants can work, because I think it's a worthwhile thing to look into. So it's pretty easy to see how in just 2 full growing seasons since our very first cuttings we took, these things just multiply like crazy. And just selling from here at our retail nursery, posting stuff online on Facebook Marketplace, retail, doing some wholesale, selling some like liners online to our Nursery U group, how these numbers can add up pretty quickly. And having planted these 3 years ago, right about this time of year, we've sold somewhere between $11,000 and $15,000 worth just off of this row right here alone. And I'm on the very conservative end of that. I'll call it 11,000 for the purposes of this video, but including with that is a whole batch of cuttings that to be taken this winter, our largest batch yet, and probably 1,000 to 1,200 rooted cuttings right now to be potted up this winter. So the cycle just continues itself year after year after year. Now, plants that can be propagated in high volume and that can be sold reasonably easy in high volume is always going to be completely dependent on your climate and where you live, what's common, what's popular, and what works in your area. So you don't necessarily need to do what I do. In fact, I recommend you don't do what I do. You need to do what's going to work where you are. But there are a lot of plants that are just going to kind of always be common and in demand. And the first of those, and I don't mean like the best, but just first I'll mention is these screening trees, whether it's some sort of cedar, some sort of cypress, some sort of pine, some sort of arborvitae, whatever it might be. People are always going to want privacy screens between them and a busy road, between them and a neighbor, or to define a property line, or whatever reason people might want to build a living screen between them and whatever it is. There's always going to be a need for that. It may be some sort of holly that grows pretty nice and tall. Boxwoods, like the most common, most foundational shrub maybe that there is. I mean, are you ever going to be able to grow and have enough boxwoods? In the deep south where I live, these crepe myrtles, there's never going to be a time when crepe myrtles are not going to be popular, you know, in case a blight comes and wipes them all out. And you just never know when things like that are going to happen. Forsythias, hydrangeas, weigelas, spireas. Maybe you shouldn't go big on all of these, but they're plants to look at that might be something to think about growing a lot of, that are easy to propagate, that have a reasonably fast turnaround time. You know, slower growing things, I mentioned boxwood, that's not really one, but it is a hugely popular plant. And you can just go on and on with plants that you can propagate and have huge returns on with, I don't want to say a minimal amount of work, but with like a predictable rate of return on them. You know, you're just not going to get this on anything or anywhere else. So that's why I wanted to show you this today. And as time goes on in our nursery and we get more established and have more growing seasons behind us to get more mature plants and bigger plants that produce more cuttings and on, we just want to continue to expand our nursery. You know, continue growing hostas and sedums and, you know, all kinds of perennials and woody shrubs and privacy screening trees and all of it. And we want to just become more and more capable doing what it is that we're doing and continuing to learn how to do all the time. And sometimes it's nice to just take a look at the numbers and say, hey, I think this is worth it, what we're doing. So thank y'all for being here. I love y'all, and I'll see you on the next one.